The power of a story can transport you into a world of imagination. I'm Andrew from the Revisionist Almanac, and I'm joined by my good friend and animation-loving podcast partner, Britt Reinholz-Hobson from the 1001 by 1 podcast. And we are here today to talk about The Girl Who Cried Pearls, which is a haunting fable about a girl overwhelmed by sorrow, the boy who loves her, and how greed leads good hearts to wicked deeds. That's not my synopsis, so thank you to Letterboxd for that one. This film has been nominated for an Oscar this year in the Best Animated Short category, and it's the creation of two brilliant individuals who we are delighted to be talking with. Please give a warm welcome to Chris Lavis and Maciek Szczerbowski. Hi, gentlemen.
Hey.
Hello, Andrew. How are you?
Thank you.
Hello, Britt.
Thank you so much for having us.
We
We're
are
so excited.
Just
for
delighted to be talking to you. Yes,
We've been chatting all week about it, honestly.
Seriously?
Yeah.
We have. We love the film. I've watched it probably 5 times over the last couple of weeks. I just adore it.
Amazing.
Wow.
I love anything that's a fable. I love anything that's kind of like gothic storytelling. So this was like right up my alley. The first time I watched it, I went, oh, yep, I love this.
Wow.
We have so many things we want to ask you too about just your background in animation, all the filmmaking process, and then kind of the journey you two have been on during this award season, which I'm sure has been very, very overwhelming, but also very rewarding for the two of you, no doubt.
So
Yeah, we do get nervous about it. We get all stressed to make sure we have that we have enough time to iron the shirts and all these things. But somehow when you actually get into that moment, you hit a kind of familiar gear and just coast. It's actually really not all that difficult, but at the same time, you don't really remember it.
Yeah. I can imagine it probably feels like a blur. There are so many different places you must be going, so many things you have to attend to. And then I hope you both have an opportunity to just sit back sometimes and go, wow, we accomplished something really beautiful and amazing, and people are appreciating it.
I mean, as soon as this is over, we're going to go to the bar and do exactly that, because we haven't had that moment yet.
I love that.
I know that we're recording this the week that the big Oscars luncheon happened in California, and you gentlemen, right before we got on this call, you were talking about you had just gotten back to Montreal, your hometown. So I'm sure this has just been a whirlwind journey for you this week.
Yeah, well, I don't think, even though we make, let's say, short surrealist movies, I don't know if there's many filmmakers who we've talked about more or referenced more than Steven Spielberg, and getting to talk to him at the Oscar luncheon and have him say, of course, what film did you make? Oh, of course I've seen it. And then talk about the film with him that's one of those let's die and go to heaven moments.
Spielberg loved our movie. I thought I was going to lose my shit.
Yeah. That's incredible.
It's insane.
Yeah. So oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, was he just as kind as he seems to be, like in every interview I've ever seen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we didn't give him enough time not to be. That's we got in and out quick, and we did not take much of his time, especially at that event. Everyone's just having these little hors d'oeuvres of encounters, but I mean that was huge for us, and there's parts in the movie. There's a moment in the movie where the boy tastes the pearl for the first time, and it goes like this. It's like tasted like tears, and the camera does a little push in, which we call, let's do one of those Spielberg Indiana Jones push ins, and so that. It's such a part of our language, and we both absolutely love the Fablemans.
Yes.
So we're not just talking about Jaws here. We really are Spanish about his work. And we loved what that movie had to say about cinema and the love of cinema, which is probably what brought you to this kind of podcasting.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We're both huge. We've been cinema lovers for years and years, and it's just amazing to be able to connect to different people through that, especially in a time right now where, people aren't going to the cinema as much, but I still feel like it's such an important place for community. And so we're big advocates for that. I think that's amazing. That sounds like such a great luncheon.
And I think one of the great things really quickly about animation, which you two are obviously deep in the field of, is there's such a breadth of diversity of styles and countries of origin that all of these different animators come from. And that's what Britt and I both love about the animated space is that there's so much depth and variety to what people are doing, and what the two of you do, I think, is very different than some of the other nominated short films that I've seen this year. And so I really can't wait to talk about some of the stuff that you two have done with the puppetry and everything.
Really?
Yeah,
it's a very strong selection this year for sure.
Yeah,
fire away.
Amazing. Well, I think we're going to do a little bit of your background in film, especially to start out with. So, how long have you two been involved in the animation world?
We started a company together 29 years ago.
Wow.
And we started on illustration, which through some unobvious pattern became turned into animation. First on 8mm with a Bolex, and then SLR cameras came out, and live outs and assist programs became available, and without which I don't think we would have carried on. But yeah, I don't know. How long have we been doing? Maybe 27 years, 26, 27 years we've been doing animation?
Neither of us went to film school. And how it all kind of happened was, at that time when we first started in Canada, there was suddenly this explosion of new cable channels and specialty cable channels, sci-fi, music, horror, mystery. They were just, I don't know, there were too many. And but what that meant was all of those stations needed little station IDs and show openings. And some of them wanted to do something different and do things with puppets or stop motion. And so we were hired to first art direct those kind of little ads or station IDs. And then once we, and then start to direct them ourselves, then start to write them ourselves. And it was really that was our film school. And we just sort of, and then we do a little job. And there was a lot of creative freedom because it was like the early days of cable. No one was watching it anyway.
And buy a grip stand, and then do another job and buy a sandbag, and so on. And
not just build up the skill set, but also build up our equipment, literally.
Amazing.
I mean, before we could get a camera with a live out, we were using like a little cheap security camera that was, with a rubber band and a piece of plasticine connected to the top of our camera, which gave us the wrong angle, but at least we could see whether the animation has some fluidity to it.
Of course. It's those small things you do when you're first starting out, where you just kind of have to be creative in order to make your vision come to life. I love that.
Yeah, listen, that's still probably the case. Like, the budgets are bigger sometimes now, but I don't think anyone ever made a movie with exactly the budget they wanted, unless,
of course,
maybe there's Apple TV shows that seem to be right. But I think that's about it.
It's few and far between.
There's something fun happens when you don't have enough money to make it exactly the way you want to. You're put into a position where you have to invent a creative solution.
Yes.
Sometimes that actually is something you end up being grateful for, because it just becomes more interesting.
I think that that's so important for art in general. Just even if you can't, you have a vision of something, but it's so important to be pliable, right? To find those ways to make your vision come to light, even with the if you don't have the means to get exactly what you want, and beautiful things can come out of that. And I think that's such an important thing for all artists to consider.
Yeah, and you two have obviously been together for a number of years at this point. For someone who is maybe discovering your work for the first time, how did the two of you ultimately end up getting connected and deciding that you wanted to be a creative partnership together? I think it's really fascinating, the journey you two have been on. Where did it all start for the two of you together?
Well, we met in university. We had to take we have to get a number of credits to complete our electives outside of our main field of study. And I guess we both chose a course in the theology department called Religions of the Ancient Near East, which was about, Sumerian and Babylonian cultures and the Epic of Gilgamesh, etc. And I don't know. I think Chris had a shirt on it that said, "Open your mouth and say SNFU." and we started hanging out.
It's a Canadian punk band, by the way.
Edmonton punk rock. And I don't know, we started meeting on the weekends to go play foosball at a Portuguese coffee shop near where we lived, and then
and talking about Galactus and those kind of things before it became the #1 culture point in the universe.
Could Galactus beat the Beyonder?
Yeah.
You were ahead of the curve on that.
Of course he couldn't. The Beyonder is thought manifest. He could have turned him into an ant.
So that kind of nonsense, and about our favorite SCTV skits, and you wouldn't know it from our movies, but that's how it all began.
Yeah.
I think I would have been in that same course. That's the kind of stuff that I enjoy researching on my own, just in like my private time. Are there any films, animated or not, that have had the biggest influence on your own careers? I know that we spoke about Spielberg earlier, but are there any other ones that really ring out true for you?
Well, in animation, it all begins with Jans Svankmajer,
and the Quay brothers.
Yeah.
No question. We studied those films on pause and frame advance, just to try to figure out how in holy smokes this was made. It was trying to like Penn and Teller kind of inquiry, where you want to figure out how the magicians did it.
That's so cool. I mean,
those things absolutely set a fire for us, and there's still those guys are the highest apple in the tree. There's no question. However, there's other schools of animation as well that we really like.
George Pal is one of the greats, in terms of our medium, with his replacement animation.
The films of Wendy Tilby and Amanda Forbes, when we first saw When the Day Breaks, again, we were counting how many frames they would use per cut because it was so economical and so successful. And just the economy of line compared to the emotional payback was like the act of a wizard,
Absolutely. I mean,
you two feel like you guys have a wizardry of your own. Just please know that, because as I was watching this again an hour or so ago, I thought I'm so impressed with the ability to take the puppetry and then transform it into what we see in the final product. It's just a remarkable piece of work.
Yeah, it only took 6-7 years from then, so I'm glad.
Just that.
I'm glad. Yeah, anyone could be a wizard at that pace, I think.
Well, and that leads me to my next question, which is, I think for a lot of people, they may think a short film is put together in a very short period of time. And as I've done more and more conversations with short film creators, I'm finding that these projects often are, being cultivated over a large period of time. How long did it take you to start and then eventually finish this project? And where was the origin point for this story for you?
5 years, realistically.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of story writing, it evolved well over a decade. In terms of including scripting and meetings, sure, you get into 7 years. In terms of production, like hardcore production, maybe just under 5, which is still quite a lot.
Yeah. I mean, the day we got our green light to begin the production, or pre-production even, COVID hit the next morning. That was it. Like the next morning there was lockdown. We were deemed correctly a non-essential service. At that moment, people who deliver toilet paper to the supermarket were 1 million times more important than any artist on earth, and rightly so. But we had to get, and that was a blessing too in a weird way. We got to work from home rather than the studio, and we got to make mistakes and incompatibilities that resulted largely in how the film looks. We made, like I was at home building the bodies of the puppets. Chris was at his house building the heads of the puppets, and we had no frame of reference to what the other is doing. So when we finally met in a back alley and compared where we're at, like the heads were, like enormous, but it was too late to go back, and we ended up making a movie with gigantic heads.
And remember, this is the national,
which in a weird way, in puppets, you kind of have to. Mm-hmm. Puppets look wrong if the head is the correct size.
That's a good point.
Fair, yes. I mean, I'm a huge fan of puppetry. I love puppetry on stage. I love it in film. I love it in animation. It's so fascinating to me and such a beautiful medium to of expression. So I'm curious, what are some of the things that you find most rewarding about filming with puppets? What is it that you gravitate towards with them?
Well, I think, every story we start with the idea that we don't start with the idea that it will even be a puppet story,
Yeah.
or even an animated story. So happens that often puppets are involved one way or another. But we start with a story, and then what we actually think about are the materials, the medium, and especially with stop motion as a medium, the material you choose really is already telling a story. So
Yeah.
and so, we have a pretty loose definition of puppets that also comes from our heroes. Jan Svankmajer made one of the great puppet films using a piece of meat, and it's a gorgeous little story about these two pieces of meat that
Two steaks.
who dance, they fall in love, and then the last shot is them just being cooked on the stove.
I
And
think it's called Meat Love.
meat love, actually, yeah.
I'm
You
jotting
know,
that down.
yeah, yeah, you can't go wrong. It's a great short film. The Quay brothers have animated with, quivering pieces of string and little screws. So, yeah, I think.
Cole Hoderman made a film where the puppets are made of sand. There's a long tradition of kind of the unconventional definition of what a
Yeah.
puppet is.
I love that.
Like that kind of inspired us at some point to collect bags of snails and let them loose on our set and see what happens. Why not?
Yeah.
I feel like there's a playfulness and a creativity to what you two do with the puppetry that's maybe a little different than some of the other animated film styles out there. I have a couple of questions for you. Do you do a lot of storyboarding like a lot of other animated films do? And then are there any challenges to the puppetry that's maybe different than people would expect who aren't familiar with that type of animated medium?
Well, with the storyboards, I mean, we draw ourselves little just ridiculous thumbnails, but no, we don't do the storyboards.
Really?
We at some point, I don't know, we were watching, I think back in the days of DVDs, we at some point rented like a reissue of Knife in the Water by Roman Polanski, and there was he was talking about, because it's it's a movie filmed on boats on a lake, and they brought their storyboard script with them to try to shoot it while they were shooting, and it was just a nightmare trying to force reality to resemble the little drawings that they had made, because it was just the movement of the boat and the dynamics of the moment were not we're not cooperating, and at some point he got so frustrated with it that he just chucked the entire load of storyboards into the lake and never used any again. He referred to it as a similar error as making a suit and then trying to find the right man to fit it. And we kind of thought that was an interesting way of looking at it, because for us, we also had a disagreement with the idea. Like storyboards are something you read, from left to right, up to down, which is not film language in any way. It's actually a comic book. That's how a comic book works. And it never made sense to us why you would begin making a film by adapting a comic book. We thought that maybe theater was a kind of more sympathetic medium, and we actually do come from the world of live theater previously, and think that the job of a director to some meaningful degree is someone who works with actors. So whenever we started production, having the great luck to know some insanely talented performers, we asked them if they would be willing to come to the studio and just screw around with us a little bit in a little kind of black box scenario where we set up, some Apple boxes for chairs, and that poster is a window, and and like this ski pole is your cane. Uh, and and so we workshop every scene. We let our actors do live takes and make sure that they're satisfied, not just doing what we wish. And they bring a tremendous amount of personality and just acute information about the character into the footage, which we then try to, not in any way rotoscope or anything like that, but to translate into the language of puppets. What also happens is that while we're filming it, we're very amateurish cameramen. And so there's a kind of primitivism to the way we film it, which is unstable and very reactive. Like if somebody comes close, we back up, or if they look over there, we swing. It's maybe too much, but at the same time, it gives the camera a kind of live feeling, preserves the spontaneity of the moment, which you'll never have once you start animating, because it's such a pedantic medium, so obsessed with accuracy to the point of annoyance, that this is actually kind of the one time we get to play and have fun.
Oh, I love that. So, just to give you a little bit more about myself, I'm a theater performer. I do devised theater and musical theater. So everything you just said, it just rang so true for me. I, as a performer, love to hear the collaborative aspect of that. My next question for you was, how does the actors inform how the puppets are filmed? And you've already given us such a beautiful answer to that.
Well, body language is a big part of telling a story as well, right?
Yeah.
The gesticulation, your posture tells
So much.
Even if it were a silent film completely, you would still know. You should still know what's going on.
Yes, of course. I mean, there's the whole idea that you should be able to turn the volume off of a movie and be able to follow the plot just from what's happening on screen. And I think that this movie was very successful in that. I love the way that all of the characters, they have specific postures. They're characterized by their movements. Really, really beautiful work. I really adored this film. So I feel lucky to get a chance to talk to you about it.
I'm so happy to hear this.
It works on two layers, because to Britt's point, if you turn the sound off and you just watch this as a silent film, you get the message completely across. But then on top of that, you get all the additional stuff with the story, which leads me to one of the great lines in the film, which is, and I'm not going to reveal at what point this comes in, but it's always the story that gives something its value. And that rings really true, and it's very impactful in the film. My question is, thematically, what were you two looking to accomplish in this story, telling it the way that you did? Was there something that you wanted to thematically get out to the world in telling this film?
I think in terms of any kind of lessons, absolutely not. I think in terms of the theme of value, that obviously was the discussion we had, a lot of discussions about how faith and commerce create value, and how those things are often intertwined. There's it wasn't, since we finished the movie, read a book that was talking about the bones of the sale of the bones of saints, and how in the 17th and 18th century there was a huge market throughout Europe of collecting and preserving the bones of saints. So every little church wanted a little bit of a knuckle or a bit of skull. And most of the time, these are totally fake. This is just, this could be someone's, this is not St. Christopher's skull fragment. This is probably, someone's great uncle. But that's very much in the theme of value and faith, and how powerful that can be, and how there will always be some people who can make a good buck off of other people's credulity.
Yeah.
It also speaks to, I think, that that concept was interesting to us because it's some weird and maybe vain way it connected to an understanding of what it is that people, that writers and filmmakers even comic book makers actually are doing, which is inventing something out of nothing and creating a mythology that can wrap itself around an object and change that object profoundly from worthless to precious. That's something crazy. That's
Yeah.
it's in a way it governs everything around us. Why is everything why are things so expensive? Well, because someone gave it an amazing story. But the moment that story changes, it cannot. If that story were to become somehow sullied, then the value drops instantly. As really has never anything to do with the thing itself, but the context you build for it.
And I love that you two slow play
That's the word. Storytellers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
and
two slow play.
storytellers and authors, and maybe there's not that much
Sure,
of a difference.
It's the same thing. Illusionists, whatever.
And yeah,
I
this
like
movie really
illusions.
reveals itself very slowly. And you took me on a journey because I never knew where the film was actually going to go with the story that was being told throughout.
I agree completely. I want to talk about mythologies and fables just a little bit. One of my personal favorite things about storytelling. Fables have been a major part of storytelling throughout human history. And in this film, it includes Adam and Eve cries tears of pearls. Were there any existing fables that you were referencing when you built out this story, or was this something?
That's the only little piece really that comes from. I think that one in particular is like medieval Islamic mysticism. Is that story?
Wow.
And there's many versions of that, and it goes, and that story itself probably is its origin is probably even older. And I imagine there's this idea of shedding tears of pearls or tears of sorrow. I wouldn't be surprised if we meet some scholar at a screening who says, like, I teach Babylonian mythology, and is that where you got it from? Because there's this story. One of the things, when you play around in myths and symbols, even though our story is original, when you play around in these waters, nothing is really original. You're just stacking these are the wooden blocks that everyone's playing with, and it's just sort of how you stack them.
Yeah, but you're layering symbolisms, and you got to be careful to curate that responsibly. But it's a lost fight. Like you're going to unleash meanings and connections that are outside of your control, and then now that the thing is over and people are seeing it, that's what's happening. They're finding meaning in it that we actually didn't intend to be in there. But it's valid. It comes from the inside, not from the outside.
What is that like, by the way, just to like put something out into the world and then have everyone experience it in possibly a different way than the two of you intended? Do you get satisfaction?
I mean, like when the film is finished, it's like your kid grew up. Like they can go to the dance by themselves now in a limo with friends. You don't have to chaperone them anymore. So in a way, there's like a whew, okay, now we get to have an empty nest.
And we really believe that you become very quickly your interpretation becomes unreliable.
Yeah.
Because you'll meet people and they'll say things. They'll go, "Oh, is this what you meant?" And you'll think like, "Well, it wasn't at all." But
well, you're not allowed to say
that's pretty good.
You're not allowed to say you're wrong. Why don't you watch it again and get it right? That's not the way. That's like saying, no, that joke was funny. Now start laughing. That's impossible. You can't condescend to people on that way. You have to trust their emotional intellect and their experience to complete when you leave, especially when you're doing something with an open ending. Let's say you've invited them to invent their own conclusions, and for the most part, we always love what people come up with. It's however crazy it is. It's also true.
Yeah, there's a great story. I was reading an essay by Ursula Le Guin, and she was talking about the book she loves and the voice, and her point was, she's like, you don't really want to meet authors. You don't necessarily need to know their stories, and you don't need to know why. You're communing with a book, not the author. The author is usually dead, and if you met them, you probably wouldn't like their opinions that much. this was Ursula Le Guin's point, and I think she's absolutely right. Like it's your experience with the book. You're not actually talking with the author. You're talking with this book. You're creating the book as you read it, and that's true of movies. Absolutely true of movies. And it's the same thing. You don't necessarily want. It's nice to meet. We try to be nice guys, but honestly, that's not the point. And it's not even the point. We're being asked a lot of questions, and we're trying to sound smart. But again, that's not the point. You're creating the experience when you watch it.
Of course.
Yeah, the open-endedness of it just makes me so happy. I'm a sucker for an ambiguous ending, and
Me too.
I'm sure you two both have ideas for what you think the answer is to the question at the end of the film, but I do not want to hear honestly what the two of you have as an answer. Or maybe you never came up with an answer.
My answer now is probably different than it would have been 3 years ago. In fact, I know it is.
Britt, what do you think the end is, if you don't mind me asking?
I have been thinking about it. I'm not quite sure. I'm still like wrapping my head around it, to be honest. I feel like I need to watch it another time just to really formulate it. And that's the beautiful thing about art, is that every time you interact with something, you can come up with new things, you can find new things, or discover something that you didn't realize before. And I think that this movie is ripe for watching multiple times to try to find all of those little moments, and also to just appreciate the beautiful color palette. Can I just say I love the color palette you used for it. It's so vibrant, and especially today I recognized when he puts on that jacket, the orange jacket, it pops so well but fits in with the entire world. And I just think those small choices really make a difference in these kind of films. And I was just really appreciating the aesthetics today, to be honest.
Well, thank you very much.
The thing I took away today, I took away the lighting. The lighting just was stunning to me. So you build all of these sets practically in space, and then you're lighting everything very meticulously, I imagine. There's a specific shot when it's dark out and it's just lit beautifully. How much is the lighting come into play?
You know what? That we're really proud of that moonlight.
Unbelievable.
Gorgeous. You should be.
Yeah.
Very impactful.
We were trying to do a moonlight that didn't look. We were trying to get out of our own cliche of what a moonlight scene would look like, with that particular kind of blue that everyone uses and that we've used, and just try to get something a little more black and white, a little more metallic feeling.
How much of that's done practically versus in post?
All done practically.
Oh, we do very little post-production color work.
Yep.
We try to set our color temperature to initially to the feeling we want. We gel our lights so we get as much of that in camera as we can. We do the only tweaks we do in post are, inevitably when a film takes years, there's color temperature problems, but from shot to shot, or, you have to imagine the process when we film is we're shooting the boy's point of view, say, and we get all those shots in every scene. And then that could be 5 months of work, just getting all the shots of the boy in the pawnbroker office, from beginning of the film to the end. And then we have to take the set apart and turn it around and do all the other angle. And, when there's months between those, you don't really match. And so a lot of our only post-production is just getting those shots to match.
But what ends up on camera is almost exact. Like we light with a live out. And what we see on this, we work until what we see on the screen is pleasing, and at that point, it's done.
Wow, I'm stunned that's the answer. Yeah, that's unbelievable. I mean, this movie's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous. It's so cohesive. I think it looks great. I love it. We'd like to talk about the Oscar season a little bit. So the Academy has recognized your work for a second time, which is amazing. The first one being 2007's Madam Tuttley Putley. What was that moment like when you two found out that your work was nominated for an Oscar?
Do you remember? Oh, we were at Sundance.
Yeah, I totally remember. We were at Sundance. We were sharing a room. Chris woke me up when he refreshed his laptop, and he said that we're in. I got very happy. And then I realized that last night while we were partying, I lost my passport. And so I had to go to the police station right afterwards. It was ridiculous.
Wow, that's like high and low right
Yeah, high
there,
and low.
all in one.
That's a lot of
It's
stress on
canceled
you.
into a total nothingness.
Is there anything you two have learned from the previous experience going on the Oscars journey in the mid 2000s that you've applied this time?
I don't know. It's the Indiana Jones mine car experience. You're just racing through the caves from one blind corner to the next, and it feels like that again. It's not. You don't know have a map in your mind. Maybe there's people. I think there's cinematographers or makeup artists who are nominated every year. Who this is old hat to. That's not us. It was 18 years ago. We're older, so maybe we appreciate it more. I'd like to think, but who knows? I mean, it's wild. It's an amazing. We were talking. It's a validation for the National Film Board of Canada,
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
they are there almost every year. So when we're working with our producer and publicist and the marketing team at the National Film Board, they do have a map. They know what's coming next. They tell us what to do. This organization that we have here, the NFB, which I think it's third in Oscar nominations and wins behind Warner Brothers and Disney.
Wow.
Like, they're there almost every year, if not every 2 years.
Yeah, this is our second nomination, and they're 79th.
So what that means is when you make a movie with them, you don't feel obligated to get them to the Oscars, but you definitely feel a responsibility to be part of this National Film Board of Canada tradition, and that doesn't
Our
always
standard.
It doesn't mean an Oscar, but it's a high standard. This is like
Yeah.
this is the BMW or whatever. Like this is an F1 team that's always on the podium, and so there's some responsibility there.
I imagine
But
also a
at the
great.
same time, it's nice to absorb your compliments, but it does fairly have to be deflected a little bit too. Part of the joy and pride, let's say, of the Academy recognizing your work is that it's not our work. It's the work of a group of people, and this group of people, it's one of the great lucks of our lives. The privileges of our lives is that we live in a little neighborhood which is just packed with unbelievable amounts of talent, whether it's on in the fine arts, the visual arts, and or music. Special effects, even everything about this movie was made within a 15-minute radius walking from the place we're sitting right now.
That is so
kitchen,
cool.
Like these are people we run into while shopping. These are people we run into at bars, and these are people we run into at the theater. And I don't know. It's not a band or anything like that, but it is a community. And the fact that over and over for years they say yes when we ask them to screw around in our little sandbox. That's another standard that we have to live up to. You cannot waste people's time, especially people who are as good as this. I mean, we have, our composer was Patrick Watson, who was brilliant in his own way. We have musicians from Godspeed You Black Emperor and from Arcade Fire. These are not people whose time you waste, and you don't take for granted that they trust you.
An animator coming off of Del Toro's movie,
Exactly.
Peggy Orell, who lives just up the street from me. The hair of the young girl was weaved hair by hair by Kathy Say,
whose kid goes to the same daycare as mine did.
But whose last job, most importantly, was creating the hair for Megan, the killer robot doll. So these are world-class talents in our neighborhood who we are just plucking.
Yeah. But when this Oscar thing happens, like that, I think, at least I hope, vindicates the fact that they canceled something and gave us their time.
Well, And I mean, I know some other Canadian filmmakers who get a great sense of pride, national pride, from the work that you all do up in Canada. I can't imagine how the response has probably been for you all on a national level. The Canadian community, I'm sure, is all behind you.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's like you get a nice message from your mom and your sister. Imagine that for a whole country. It's got that same warmth to it,
Yeah,
and that's really nice.
We're delighted to represent our country
that's
Well,
wonderful.
you're doing it very well. Another
and
quick
not only
question.
and our city.
Absolutely. So obviously you two have been in the game for quite a long time in animation. I made a point to watch every shortlisted animated film in your category. There was a tremendous amount of variety and depth. What have you two seen in terms of the evolution of the animated space over the last 3 decades now that you've been in it? Have you seen a growth in this category? It seems like it's just bountiful with creators.
Yeah, I mean, when we started, this was literally an archaic medium,
Stop motion.
and it was probably going to go extinct very, very quickly. The amount of film labs that would process your film were at that point one, and I don't even know if that one still exists. You know, like the idea of actually owning a Bolex, the idea of the insane meticulous notes you had to keep to get through a shot. That I don't think we would have kept going. It was a romantic medium. It belonged to the past, and it was precious. What has happened since we began, though, is that and we embraced it completely, is that it became a modern medium.
It's a digital medium, actually. We shoot digitally, and this is true of everyone making stop motion. You're shooting digitally, you're editing digitally, your post-production is digital. Of course, the handcrafted quality of it is also a big reason why it's more popular than ever.
But you are removing rigs. You are knocking out green screens. You know, this is not like that. You know, the frame in King Kong where there's that one where you see the little rig. Like no, it's like right now you can go to the art store and buy like a stop motion kit for your kids to work with an iPhone. You know, Chris's daughter started making claymation during lockdown because it was just possible. No labs. It was instant, and the reward was
yeah. And
palpable,
you're seeing it come out of, you're seeing also a film school generation in the last, let's say 15 years, 10, 15 years, who were not satisfied learning just CG and going into, when it seemed for a minute there that CG was the be all and end all of animation. And I think film students were really pushing to say like, no, we want to learn stop motion. We want to have stop motion classes. We want to get back to 2D classes. And that generation is now the generation making movies that are coming into Annecy and going into these Oscar races. And that's so, yeah, I think, yeah. The diversity of the medium is also, again, it comes out of the digitization of the medium. Mm-hmm. It's so much easier to get hand-drawn work into the computer and to be able to do it at home. You don't actually need to go to Burbank and work at the Disney studio to make 2D. You can actually do it on your desk. Also, like even when we're talking about our influences from the past, like what a dudes club that was. That like when we're talking about like, and maybe I'm misunderstanding this because I just don't know enough. But it was like when we talk about Svankmajer and Trinka and the Quays, etc. Like that's a boys club. Like they didn't intend it that way, but it was a medium that was. Of course, there were women making amazing films. I'm not saying there weren't.
Oh, yes.
But it was so uneven. Right now we just came back from a festival in New York where they asked us to present our favorite movie, favorite animated film from the recent times, and we showed them the film of Nikki Lindroth von Bahr called The Burden. Like this is like women are now a really meaningful part of the festival experience and of this and representing this medium, which is amazing because it's actually just the language of it just got a million times richer. The vocabulary of it.
I love that so much, and it must be so so wonderful to watch this medium that you both have dedicated so much time to just blossom into something that is considered so new now. People are trying to learn it again, and that's so amazing to watch how art becomes cyclical. Like it's the cyclical nature of art, how it all comes back around, and you're a part of that growth, which is really amazing. Like very cool. That
Yeah,
you
no,
had that
I mean, it
influence.
is nice. It is that part is nice to have our little place in the sand here. But yeah, no,
Yeah, there is a sure, of course. We have our mentors, and now we're lucky enough to. We always work with the kids too, and now we're their mentors. You know, it's nice.
Yeah.
Like there's people who are coming out of the Concordia University program and going straight into our productions, and they're half our age, if not less. And there's a beautiful continuity to that. It keeps, like vampires like us with stocked in fresh blood.
What a great
Terrifying
analogy.
things.
that's inspiring, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. It is inspiring.
That's amazing. So speaking of being inspired by the people you work with, this question goes out for both of you. Do you have a favorite skill or trait about your directorial partner that like makes your filmmaking experience just joyful and lovely?
One of the funnest things about having a kind of persona that we work under is that you're not signing it with your own name. It is a collaborative product, and usually at the end of it, you don't remember who did what or whose idea something was.
Yeah, it's not, and I think what works, it's not about the skill set, it's about the ongoing conversation.
Yeah.
And that I think is
It takes the ego out.
that's what began when we first met and we were talking about Galactus. Is these conversations have never stopped. It's never stopped. At some
Amazing.
point, we started making movies and occasionally sending invoices. But the key is that kind of it's conversation,
Yeah.
and as long as we're enjoying and getting something out of those conversations, the films will come.
Wow.
That's amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
This film really inspired me. I was so impressed with the work that you two have done. Britt and I we want to thank you for taking the time to talk about the film for a little bit with us. We're going to be wishing you both the best of luck in about a month's time from now when the Oscar ceremony comes out. For anyone out there who would like to support your film and support your work, why don't you let people know where they can follow you guys on the socials? Where can they get in touch with the two of you and help?
If you want to catch us on the socials, we are at Clyde Henry Productions on Instagram. That's it. And that's a nice place where let's say if you're interested in what we're working on now or little bits and pieces of what things we've done in the past, that's the place we put it. But again, thank you also. It was really such a lovely conversation. We really appreciate it.
Likewise.
Thank you, Britt and Andrew.
Thank you so much. This has been wonderful.
For us as well.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for now. We hope you had fun listening to this conversation. And that's it for Britt and myself. And we will see you next time. Take care.